So, you know, autistic, tranny, schizo, but I'm hopeful. Why? A lot of people I see deal with tons of issues and shit. Everyone's fucking black pill these days. Absolute doomer mindset. Um, I think a lot of this comes from a lot of atomization that people experience because in today's internet world we focus so hard on our negatives and we're not focusing on our strengths, you know what I mean? I often think about this one time a couple years ago. I went swimming and I hadn't swam for a couple years before this. And I for some reason was really scared to swim. I had never been scared, but I was so scared of like going where my feet couldn't touch. And so what I did is I started floating on my back. And I realized that I got like halfway out into the lake and I was totally fine. And all I did was just take deep breaths and just do the backstroke, you know? Just taking it easy, you know? I didn't worry about how deep it was because I knew that I could float. And the way I apply this to my real life is that we can sit here and look at all of our negatives, all of the downsides, all of the debuffs that we've been given in life, whether it's genetic, financial, circumstantial, we can look at all this stuff, or we can try to not ignore it, but persevere. And I think that's really important. Because what happens when you get so bogged down is you stop functioning, you shut down. And that's really detrimental. Because I think when you're not moving, you're falling behind. Think about everyone floating down a stream and then you're standing still while everyone passes you by. So sometimes you got to make decisions. You got to do stuff for your best interest that feels uncomfortable. In chess, there's this chess player whose strategy was so overwhelming by creating advantages for himself that the opponent would rather not make a move because any position they would put themselves in would be worse. And it's called Zugzwang. It's a German word. And I think about that a lot, where, someone or life can put you in positions that you'd rather just do nothing. You'd rather sit in your room, play RuneScape, smoke pot, just waste away. And that comes from experience, I did that for years. And, it got so bad. I have a spinal deformity, not major, but I have shallow spinal canals and it like pinches the nerves in my legs. And I stopped going outside. I barely went outside, maybe only 3 or 4 times a year for doctor's appointments. Got my groceries delivered. Got my weed delivered. That's it. I just stayed inside on my computer all day doing drugs. Because I was too scared. I didn't think I had the capability to go outside. I was so scared, so paranoid of the world. And, what did it for me, it was a combination of things. But I was in a relationship for about 5 years that was really bad for me. And it drug me down. And I didn't think I had anywhere to go. I didn't think I had any opportunities. I basically was dead in the water. But I played this game called Cry of Fear, and it's basically about this like 19-year-old kid who gets hit by a car, put in a wheelchair, and he's schizophrenic, and he writes in a journal about his experiences. He creates a story for himself, Most of the endings are where he kills someone or kills himself, but there's one ending, and the ending I got was the best situation. But what I took from that is that, I needed to get out of my house because I was in a wheelchair at the time. I would use like canes to get around the house, wheelchair, stuff like that, because I could barely walk. I was so atrophied. And that was 2 years ago. And today, I was so far depressed that I didn't even think about killing myself because I was so depressed. I already felt dead. And the cool thing that you may not realize when you're so depressed, so hopeless, you've got nothing going for you, is that you actually have every opportunity to rebuild your life. It's a new chapter, maybe even a new book for you. But the cool thing is that you get to create what you want instead of having to deal with situations that life has put you under. You get to create opportunities. My ex broke up with me, left me for two other guys. It destroyed me. All I did was, uh, for a while I went out. There's this group for trans people in the next city over, and I started going to these events, these hangouts. It's like maybe 10, 20 people, fucking terrified, off anxiety meds, clonazepam, or what the fuck is it called, propranolol, stuff like that. And I took like high doses because I was so anxious, so paranoid, so freaked out. But I went to the doctor and I talked about him because I have a schizoaffective depressive type. Excuse me. And it was really bad. I don't think I've ever heard of someone having a worse case of depression or schizophrenia than me. But I went to the doctor and I fortunately was able to get help. But I knew that I had to make a change, so I started exercising every day. And I would go on walks, and sometimes it was only for a couple minutes, but eventually I was able to walk an entire mile. And then eventually I was able to walk multiple miles, and I would do this every day. And I went to physical therapy, went there for about a year, got stronger, didn't need the cane, didn't need the wheelchair. I was able to walk on my own. And it was still bad, but it was better. And this is the absolute foundation. It was that I wanted to change. I wanted to make conscious decisions to change, and I think that's important. That's the basis of everything, is that you have to want something better for yourself. You have to, even if you don't think you deserve it, you don't need permission. You don't have to earn it, you know? I didn't apply for jobs for a really long time because my resume was so spotty because of my disabilities. I couldn't manage work for more than like a month, and I would just quit because I would go into psychosis, or I would have a pain flare up, and I couldn't walk and stuff. It was so bad. Before I got my wheelchair, I would have to crawl, literally like a Call of Duty zombie, crawl on the ground to like get around my house. Those were some dark days. That was probably the roughest point of my life. Um, I was drinking like 6 to 10 beers every day, all day, smoking weed, playing on my computer, and I was okay with the bare minimum. But one thing you have to remember, and I'm not trying to be all weird and stuff, but everyone has a spark given by God. And this spark is what gives us our humanity. And I thought about that. I wasn't religious at the time, but I became religious. And I'm not super serious about it, but I'm not even sure if I believe in anything like that. But it's more about your connection to other people. I think God is that little space in between you and me. It's not some higher power, it's not heaven and hell. It's just that connection between people. And you need that. You need connection. I live in a really small town, red state. I mean, one of the worst places, almost entirely white. It's pretty secluded out here, but that didn't stop me. I, found local groups online, mainly queer ones, because that's where I wanted to be. But I started going to different places. I started going to my local game store to play Magic the Gathering. It's a little card game. I used to play it as a kid a lot, and I stopped during COVID and never picked it back up. But I started going there, and Magic is largely a male-dominated space, very sweaty, gross nerds. And I was really nervous because I'm trans, and I thought it was gonna be bad. But I only got misgendered once in the last, like one time out of the entire time I've been there for the last like 8 months. And it's not as bad as you think, and I didn't need my anxiety meds. I was fine. I decided I'm gonna stop being anxious. What I did was I would, whenever I feel anxiety, I would be like, okay, what would I be doing right now if I wasn't anxious? What would I be doing? And I'd be like, I don't know, probably, getting ready, eating a bowl of cereal, listening to some music or whatever, and then I do those things. And that doesn't mean I'm not anxious, but it keeps me from not slowing down and being non-productive and shutting down, because momentum is so important. That's the real thing. I've been applying for jobs for a couple months now. And a couple days ago, I got 3 opportunities all on the same day for different places. And there's never been a position in my life where I had not only a job interview opportunity, but multiple. I actually have the opportunity to like decline some jobs. But I wouldn't have gotten there if I didn't get over the anxiety of having to go out into the real world, talk to people, be a real person. You know what I mean? You get so stuck on Twitter, just rage baited. You're just terrible all the time. It sucks. Get off that shit. Stop doing that. The old adage of like touch grass is kind of real. I think there's more to it than that, though. It's not about touching grass. It's about like making effort to expand your comfort zone. Not necessarily get out of your comfort zone, but expand your comfort zone. Like, I used to be so anxious to talk to people, I would probably vomit, before going to a hangout or something. But what I did is I thought about it and I was like, okay, how can I learn to talk to people? And a lot of people are very comfortable talking about themselves, but not talking about other people. So I was like, okay, I gotta lock in. I gotta figure out how I can talk to other people. And you just start asking questions about them. What's your hobbies? Do you have any pets? What's your favorite movie? You just get the ball rolling, You can talk about yourself a little bit if you want, but, you put the ball in their court and then they'll open up to you. And then you can start kind of going back and forth on your stuff. But it's like you gotta be open to other people, because everybody, especially in the queer community in real life, everyone's so guarded. Everybody's anxious. Everybody's freaked out to talk to you. So you've got to be the one to put yourself out there. You got to be the freak you want to see. You gotta be the beast you worship. Gonna change flavors here. Smoking on this tropical gummy. It's pretty good. So the point is that you can be autistic, you can be schizophrenic, you can be a transgender individual. This doesn't have to limit you, though. Like I said, I'm in a red state. This place used to have the Ku Klux Klan compound, but I still got out there. And I don't know if I pass or not. Clearly my voice is a bit more masculine. But, I think I'm alright. And I rarely get misgendered. And if I do, I don't care, because these are just people. They're just strangers. It doesn't impact who I am. That's the important thing to remember, is who you are. And if you don't know who you are, I really encourage you to start trying stuff that you think wouldn't work, stuff you think that would be crazy to do. You know, it takes a radical mindset to break out of your own chains, and it's possible. You can do it. I believe in you. So why am I hopeful? It's because I know for every winter there comes spring, and every spring there's summer, there's fall, and there's winter again. But there's beauty in all of it. That's the thing about real life, about being a human, is that it's duality. You get to experience pain. You get to experience joy. All of it is part of the experience. And when you try to nullify the pain, the agony of being alive, you dull the beautiful parts as well. And that's the saddest thing. But learning to weather the storm, be okay with falling out of your ship occasionally. I think there's a bird on my deck. But that's why people and friends are so important. So when you do fall off your boat, you're stuck in the water. It's choppy out there. There's lightning. You're scared to death. They can throw you a life raft, and you'll be there for them too. But that's scary. That's scary to trust other people, to open up, because we all get burned so bad. People these days are so bad. But you got to remember, there are nice people out there, and it starts with you. If you're one of the only nice people you know, stay that way. I encourage you to be strong in these times, because we all need people out there. You have to be there for someone else. That's important. That's why you got to work on yourself just as much as you work on your connections with other people. But it gets better. Maybe you're still depressed after you've done everything. You've gotten the job, you got the car, you moved out. Maybe it's not enough. Well, you got to fill your time with something. Stop worrying about, the position you're in. You're stuck in Zugzwang. You don't want to move. But sometimes you got to learn how to play at disadvantage. You got to learn how to work through it. Maybe you're not going to win this game, but you can always do another game. Maybe you'll do it differently this time. You've got more experience now. You're smarter. You've gained knowledge. It's better. And maybe it takes you a year or a decade to get out of those positions, but every single repetition you do, every single day you wake up, you apply for those jobs, or you message that person, you set up that, you reach out, you talk to someone, or you go to your local library and you do a little hangout. Even if you don't like knitting or painting or whatever, it's about the connection. It's about getting out there, and it tangibly helps you. I still get depressed. But I also know that there are days where I'm going to be happy, and so I don't let it eat me alive. When I sit there and I'm so depressed, I'm sitting alone in my room in the dark listening to music, and I'm just like zoning out, wishing it would all be over. I just remember when I go to sleep, I'll wake up tomorrow, get a cup of coffee, I'll sit outside, and it's a new start. I don't have to let it drag me down. Maybe you're carrying that ball and chain with you. Maybe you have your whole life. But eventually, if you put the effort in, it'll work out. Today I went to a job interview. It's the best place I wanted to work out of the couple options I had. Like I said, I've been applying to jobs for months now. And it's rough. I'm not going to fucking lie. But I went in there not being like, am I worthy of this job? I hope I'm good enough. I went in there saying, I'm going to provide them with the opportunity to hire me because I'm an asset. And that's the only that's the only thing I changed in my mind, was that instead of being like, am I good enough? Can I earn this? Do I deserve it? Did I do everything that the world demands of me to have this blessing? I said, no, I am the blessing. I am the one that they want to hire. And I'm fairly certain it went pretty well. But I'd never had that confidence. This was the first interview I did sober. This is the first interview I did as a girl. You know, these are a lot of scary things for me. But I went in there, you know, and I walked up, and, you know, the manager was just walking out. And I walked up, and I said, hey, I'm here for an interview. She was like, oh, wonderful. She shook my hand, introduced her. And on my application, I used my dead name. I still haven't changed it yet. But I didn't worry about that. I just said, hey, my name is Beatrice. And I shook her hand. Nice firm handshake. You know, and she was excited. She could see that there was light in my eyes. You know what I mean? I was enthusiastic to be there. I was terrified. I was fucking scared. Like I said, I didn't think I was gonna get the job, and I don't know if I got it yet, but it went pretty well. She said she was gonna contact me to talk about hours, so seems pretty good. But the point is, I didn't get here, you know, overnight. This was years in the process. Remember, 2 years ago, I was in the wheelchair, doing drugs, playing on my computer, couldn't leave the house because I was too schizo. And now I worked on myself consistently. You know, there are some months where I barely did anything and I just survived. There are some months where I flourished. But I'm at the point where I'm at a better baseline. And that's the important thing, is that you can get there. There's a lot of hope. Hope is free, and there's a lot of it to go around. Not a lot of people are hopeful anymore. Because it's easier to just do your baseline minimum stuff. But the thing is that you are meant for greatness. There's so much more. There's so much more to you. When you're one with nothing, everything is possible. So I encourage you to just take a step. Maybe it's just showering twice a week. Maybe it's, you know, eating a couple more meals, you know, brushing your teeth at least a couple times a week. I don't know how bad it is for you, but it's been bad for me. But it got better. It'll get better for you too.